Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. Today, I'm joined by ESPN NFL draft analyst Matt Miller. Always enjoy having Matt on. Good insight, studies the heck out of the stuff. You can see his stuff on ESPN, ESPN.com. You can read him there as well. So I want to have him on. I broke this down into two parts. So the first part is going to be talking about the offensive players that are possibilities at 29, but also maybe a little bit later in the draft. And so we talk about a lot of names, get through a lot of stuff, and then we'll have Bram Weinstein and I, the voice of the Commanders, and I will then talk about the case for drafting offensive players at 29 and maybe even the first two picks when we have our podcast on Thursday. And then next week, we'll repeat with the defensive side. So Matt Miller and I will talk about the defensive players in the draft. And the next day, Bram and I talk about why they should go defense in the draft. So we're kind of covering all bases here, but a lot of good reasons for both areas to discuss. But anyways, it starts with Matt Miller talking about the offensive players in this draft. And there's some interesting names at 29. They could have a big impact. So we get over everything, even talk about tight ends for some of you who I know are interested in that position for sure. So stay tuned for that. Before I get there, a couple of housekeeping items. One, on Thursday, I'll be doing another private Zoom for you Gold members. So please show up, bring your questions. I'm going to be joined by Craig Hoffman from the Team 980, of course, has the Take Command podcast with Logan Paulson. Always enjoyed talking to Craig, and I know some of you would love to talk to him as well. So bring your questions, comments, whatever you want to do, but we'll have a good conversation Thursday. And the good thing is, Alex Ovechkin already broke the scoring record in hockey. So they play Thursday night. I'm not going to have to worry about that. Almost thought I might have to postpone that time on Thursday so we could watch Ovechkin chase, but he took care of that on Sunday. So it remains on Thursday at 7:30 Eastern time. So anyway, join us there. And then also, if you probably heard today, I'm recording this on Monday afternoon or late Monday afternoon, that Washington has hired Wes Welker to be a personnel analyst. And he's going to be a personnel analyst for both the personnel side, but also the coaching side. He, of course, played many years in the NFL with the Patriots. He also has been a coach in the NFL with the 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. And the 49ers is important because there's a connection there, right? Of course, with Adam Peters, but also with Deebo Samuel. And if you remember, I had Nick Wagner, our ESPN 49ers reporter, on the podcast back around when they traded for Deebo Samuel, talking about just what they're getting him, but he also discussed the connection with Wes Welker and just like how important Welker was to Deebo Samuel. And he was there from 2019 to 2021. And basically what I recall from that, I'm just kind of checking some notes here, is that Samuel, first of all, really likes and respects him. And of course, like Welker was a terrific NFL player, but he was also, what Nick had said too at the time, was very big on accountability for Samuel when it came to getting in and staying in shape. So just for anybody who ever has questions about that, Welker's a guy that can help with there. Now, he was on the coaching staff then. He's in a personnel analyst role this time, so it's not quite the same thing. But clearly they have a relationship, and it's not like you're not going to tap into that either. So anyways, that was, something that came out. Mike Reese, our ESPN Patriots reporter, and reported that. So, but that's what the role is, personnel analyst, but it could help at least have some impact in some way on Deebo Samuel. And listen, man, Samuel may not need that sort of impact this time because he is certainly, I think he would like to go prove himself once more to get another big contract after this season. So there you go. That's it for me. Oh, by the way, if you didn't listen to my Trustway interview, had that out on Monday, do me a favor, go listen to that. Trust is always a good interview. And I will say, there are a lot of people who complain like, I don't want all the speculation. Well, here's a good interview because of Trust, not because of me, but because of Trustway. He's always a good interview. So give that to you. But people seem to like the speculation a lot more. So show to me that you like these interviews as well, because, go listen to it, go watch it, do whatever. Anyways, Tress is really good to listen to and to hear from. And he did talk about, like, there's some fun stuff on there. It was stuff about, why he teared up talking to Adam Peters and Dan Quinn after the season, what they said that triggered that. Also, he and his wife had adopted a baby in December. he also needed heart surgery while these guys were in the playoffs. What was that like, and what is going on with their son now? And then just some fun stuff about Tressway and this competition and just how different it is out there, et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera. So, anyways, do me a favor, go back and listen to that. So that's it for me, folks. Without further ado, here's my conversation with ESPN NFL draft analyst Matt Miller. All right, Matt. Well, let's start with the offense for Washington at 29. There's a case that can be made. They can go wherever they want to go. But on offense, what are some options for them at 29 that would make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You could kind of go any direction. I think even after adding Debo Samuel, I think you still have a wide receiver. There's a debate among NFL teams right now. How many receivers are actually going to go first round?
Mhm.
So let's put this scenario out there. Travis Hunter could make, and maybe one other receiver, the only ones off the board at 29. So if you have a choice between Matthew Golden from Texas, Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State, maybe even Tedero McMillan from Arizona. Like two of those three players could still be on the board at 29. So even if maybe like on paper, oh, this doesn't seem like the biggest need necessarily, being able to continue to bolster that wide receiver room and add, a starting level player, I would be interested in that, to have someone who could maybe be the slot receiver. We're going to see Debo get moved all over the place.
Right.
So I wouldn't rule out wide receiver somewhat early for this team. I'm still interested in tight end. Like I know they've drafted at the tight end position. I don't think we'll see Colston Loveland make it to 29. He would be my exception to the rule on offense, but they've checked off so many needs already. So at 29, if we were like, okay, they're going to pick on offense. All right, it's wide receiver. I didn't even know that I would go like offensive lineman of the future, because like Brandon Coleman played pretty well last year.
Right.
So like you've got a good third tackle in there. It's a really impressive how quickly this roster has turned around to the point that
Uh,
we're saying, oh, in the first round, gosh, you could kind of take everything because nothing's really a need.
Right. And now let's go to receivers first because I want to get to running backs and then also because you mentioned Loveland and I will get to that in a minute, but with receivers. So like, what they could use, every offense needs a guy who has some dynamic ability, right? So as a receiver, maybe
Yeah.
Smeed, Golden would fit that bill. Why shouldn't he? Like, why do some teams think he might not go? Well, do they think he'll go in the first round? If not, why not? Because he seems to have those traits.
Yeah, I think he's the one that is probably most confidently going to go in the first
Right.
round. But one thing I hear, John, is like, if he's so good, why wasn't he the number one guy at Texas?
Right.
And he wasn't until the end of the year when Isaiah Bond went down. And to that, I would say Texas turned over its entire wide receiver room. Worthy and Mitchell went to the NFL, uh, and in come Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden. And I don't know that they knew exactly what they had until the games started being played. So he would give them, some speed at the
Right.
position. He can play inside outside. He has great ball tracking ability on deep balls and also yards after catch. He's going to give you that. He had I think 23 catches over 20 yards last year. So he's going to give you some of those chunk plays that have been missing.
And then you get Jaden with him and Terry on the other side. And by the way, Terry was not a number one receiver at Ohio State. And look, he's
Right.
done pretty well in the NFL. But how good would that be for a guy like Daniels to have, Golden and
Oh,
Terry on that
goodness.
side?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be, I just, I think you open things up to where how do you cover these guys, right? And you're getting safeties out of the box that way, which is great when you have a running quarterback as well. Is okay, we're going to see more, true 5, 6 man boxes, which is going to make everything in the run game exponentially better. So it certainly opens your offense up. Terry is a beautiful downfield threat, as you guys know. I mean,
Right.
he's so good down the field. But like, now you have two of those. But Golden also can be a threat underneath. He can be a guy that does. He's 5'11", 190. He can do some damage on crossers. He can be an impact in the screen game, and obviously Debo is too. Like that's what he does
Right.
best. But I think I looking at Debo how he played last year, I'm a little skeptical that he's going to get back to who he was in San Francisco. And I think Golden would allow him to almost be a third option instead of expecting him or needing him to be a second one.
Ibuka, what's your take?
Great slant route runner, best blocking receiver in the draft. He does all the little things well. He was a punt returner for Ohio State. He's not super explosive in terms of long speed, but his short area quickness is good. He's physical. He knows how to get open on underneath routes. He's not going to give you that over the top home run speed, but he's a chain mover.
who's a guy after that pick for the like because they have picks in rounds 2 and 4. Who are some guys maybe to watch in those ranges that might be? Because and correct me if I'm wrong. I keep hearing that it's not as deep a draft in receiver, but there are always guys. So who are some guys in those areas?
Yeah, it's not as deep, but there will be guys. I love Jalen Noel from Iowa State for a team like the Commanders, just because again that underneath ability, yards after catch, how well he separates in his the drive phase of his route. I would put Kyle Williams from Washington State in there as well as probably a maybe a third round pick. Savion Williams from TCU, someone really interesting. And before they got Debo, I had pegged them as a team for him because of his versatility. He played wildcat quarterback. He's played some tailback. He's played wide receiver. He had 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 receiving touchdowns. Like he gives you a lot of versatility at that position. So if they still view that as let's get an offensive weapon, somebody to be a yards after catch player, I think he would be a target in that late round 2 area.
And then there's also Jaden Higgins. What's your take on him?
Yeah, I love him. I don't think he'll be there. He would be a
Yeah.
29 target instead of a
So
second round
because
target.
yeah, so you don't think he'd be there in the second round at all?
No, I think I he'll be gone. I would think in the first 40 picks. I can't imagine
Okay,
him making it all the way through. He's just too good. This draft is light on X receivers.
right.
So a player of his 6'3", 215, the way he gets open, I think there's a very good shot he's gone in the top 40.
Running backs. What's
Great
your
running back
who do you
class.
like?
Yeah.
It is right. And so who do you like if they took one at 29? And what's the sweet spot for these picks?
Yeah, at 29, if Omarion Hampton for North Carolina's there, and it's starting to seem like he might not be, that is the sweet spot for him. He's a power runner who's a very, very good receiver out of the backfield. He's more of that true one cut, get downhill. He runs a little bit upright, but he's so powerful and he runs away from people. I love the second round. Like second round is the sweet spot. Now, knowing that Washington picks at 29,
Right.
it might mean pulling one of these guys into the first round. Travion Henderson from Ohio State is an elite outside the box runner. He's an elite receiver. He's also an elite pass protector. Like he's plug and play ready. His teammate Quinshon Judkins, more of a between the tackles runner, more physical. He's going to give you some of that power element to the game, not unlike Brian Robinson does, but with I think a little more runaway speed. Caleb Johnson from Iowa is an outside zone runner, one cut, get downhill, be physical, beat people up a little bit. So all three of those guys are round 2 talents who could be pulled up into the late first round, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise.
Can you get into the fourth round and get like, because again, what they would want is like you mentioned Robinson and they have Austin Eckler, but they'd like someone who can give them something they don't have, which would be the
Mhm.
home run threat. Can that guy be found in the fourth round if they waited?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see players like Trevor Etienne from Georgia,
Right.
who transferred to Georgia. Trevor's little brother, or Travis' little brother, excuse me. He had such a good Senior Bowl, and he was showing things I'd never seen him do in college. But he has that home run ability. Jaden Blue from Texas is another player who watch his ability as a receiver out of the backfield and some of the things he does. He has the electric speed. Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech, right there in the backyard, another guy with huge speed. And I think I have each of those guys as a potential round 4 player right now.
Are you concerned with Tootin at the fumbles?
Yep. And same with Jaden Blue. The fumble, the reasons that we're talking about them as round 4 guys instead of
Right.
earlier because of the home run speed, the receiving ability, but the fumbles are the key.
There was a couple minutes on the other spots. You brought up tight end, and so they have Zach Ertz. They just drafted Ben Sinnott last year. They re-signed John Bates. But like if you're trying to build a good roster, you take your best player. So is there any chance that a guy like Loveland could fall that far? And what would you think of that?
It could happen. I mean, it's the NFL draft. Like, anything could happen, and especially he's coming back off some injuries, so maybe
Right.
I would be shocked, and I would be jumping on the table trying to tell every team to draft him if that were to happen. Somebody to keep an eye on would be Mason Taylor from LSU, who the son of Jason Taylor,
Right.
the nephew of Zach Thomas. He's got some NFL bloodlines, obviously, and a heck of a player for the Tigers. And what he did at the Senior Bowl, Combine, Pro Day. I mean, he has checked every box along the way. And if you don't take him at 29, the Eagles might at 32. So you could also, weaken a rival if you take him off the board.
Are you surprised that Sinnott didn't have a bigger impact last year, or what do you think?
A little bit, but I actually thought he was overdrafted to some degree, so I wasn't, I guess, incredibly surprised. I know he, had what, he have a touchdown catch in the NFC Championship game, I think. So, I viewed him as more of like a number two tight end, a guy that could move around a little bit, line up at several positions, really good football IQ, a pretty good blocker. I didn't view him as somebody that was going to be really a difference maker, as someone that's going to make guys miss after the catch, or he's going to be able to create space on his own. That's just not the type of player I saw him being.
Last one, if we're going to end up part one on offense here, get to the defense. Offensive line, as you said, they're building a good line, but you never know. Is there an interior guy that you would say, like, I really like this guy in this range?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Gray Zabel from North Dakota
Yeah.
State, 29 is kind of the perfect range for him. Same with Tyler Booker from Alabama. I have him graded quite a bit higher just on play, football IQ, character. But if he's there at 29, I don't think you could overlook that. I think Sam Cosmi is going to be a free agent after this year.
He
So
he was
there's
he's hurt. He has signed an extension, so he's good to go. He
Okay.
just had the
I
ACL.
apologize. Yeah.
No, that's
Okay. Well, never
okay.
mind then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with 32
It's
teams
hard,
free
trust
agents.
me,
A little
it's hard
rusty
to do.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
no.
I would throw Gray Zabel in there as certainly somebody he could play all five positions up front as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I like him as well. So, thanks, Matt, on the offense. Now, for part two, we're going to go to the defense. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Matt for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back on Thursday with Bram Weinstein, the voice of Commanders, and I discussing the case to draft an offensive player with the 29th pick. There you go. I'll talk to you next time.